and just happening at the same time as population is increasing. But this is something we need to
I
address.
apologize, Professor, but the time is now more than up, so I
Thank you,
have
I've
to
said
stop
enough.
you there. And if I may also ask all of you to be ready, you are familiar with the order that I will bring you to the floor, so we don't have to wait for a technical arrangement for each of you. So now I'm pleased to invite Professor Khalid to speak. Are we having difficulty? Well, we are not going to wait long, so if it's not on the screen, can I go to Mrs. Basu? Please, take the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Myopia, that's the one word that encapsulates the affliction that our world suffers from today, that incapacitates not just our eyes, but also our inner vision, that makes us apathetic and immune to not just the disparity and suffering that beset our societies, but also to the environmental degradation that's destroying our natural ecosystems. And the evidence is there daily all around us, and yet we do not see it. And if we do not feel responsible for it, shrugging it off as someone else's problem, possibly the government's. And once in a while, some people strike and then they go back to the same routine. And as a young person, I am aghast at this apathy and the lack of moral accountability that pervades global society. Because why should the air that I breathe here in Toronto be different from the air that people choke upon in Delhi? Why should the children of First Nations communities here in Canada have to boil their drinking water while the aquifers in their lands supply pure bottled water to the rest of the world? And how did we allow $1.9 trillion of military spending last year when every country is woefully short on ventilators and PPE in the current pandemic? Do we not know, or we don't care? And I think it's both, because there exists this moral gap where we need the awareness that currently the apathy keeps us complacent in our cocoons. And this moral awakening can again make us feel responsible for the degradation of our societies and the natural environment. And the Sustainable Development Agenda is deeply grounded in ethics right from the Brundtland Report. And this last decade of action for the SDGs can only bear fruit if we're able to revive that morality and adopt an ethics-based implementation approach that's based on the principles of multilateralism and not the current form of reductionism. And I'm not calling for a new value system, but just a reminder and revival of what we once were and a deep delve into the spirituality that exists in all of us. And the success of the SDGs in our planet's future really depends on how effectively and quickly we're able to bring about this change in perspective. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, both for this statement and also keeping it well within the time limit. So the final speaker in this opening first round is Mother Frida Jack. Please, the floor is yours.
Mr. President, whom did you call?
Sorry, it was me,
Yes, sure.
Frida.
Good. Yeah, please, go on.
I'd like to talk about individual responsibility. We have ways to help ourselves be responsible in how we treat the environment, how we think of the environment, what we feel about the environment. I've had them place a Thanksgiving address that's available to the whole conference. And that recognizes all those parts of creation that do their duty every day. And as humans, it is our duty to be thankful, to have that respect and love for those parts of creation on this earth and Mother Earth herself. By carrying that love and respect with us every day, we are more apt to treat those parts of creation well. We were given basic ways of treating the environment right from the beginning of time. And we were told that all peoples on earth were given this direction. It's rather simple, but if you think about how a person is affected by the Thanksgiving address and how it makes them responsible and kind and loving towards Mother Earth, it can make a great deal of difference. So those aspects I'd like to bring out are resource. It's called resource in your way, but if you're out to gather, so let's say berries, whatever it is, you never take from the first source. You go and find the second, the third source, and then you pick only what you need, and you give thanks to it, and then you never take what isn't given. You take only what is given. So to review on that, you're leaving something for the future. So the seventh generation is able to have those berries. You don't take it all. You don't take, you leave something to be revived for the future. You give thanks to it. You're respecting it. You're caring for it. And you only take what's given. You know, the apples on the tree, the fruit on the tree is there to pick or find on the ground. Same with nuts, same with berries, but even the fish out in the ocean where you can drop a line and catch a fish, those are all available. And just to reflect on that point of view, methane, where is methane? It's a mile down. It isn't given. And we know that mining and that sort of thing has damaged Mother Earth so much. So just with that much, I think I will leave it. Being responsible as an individual, using a good mind as we go out into the world and have that caring and love for the natural world can guide everyone, you know, even the CEO who's on top of a business. So thank you for the time.
Well, thank you very much indeed, and thank all of you for this comprehensive and very profound opening statements and the analysis which you have helped us to bring together. In the next part, we will move more towards your own personal examples of how to integrate ethics into behavioral change. But before I invite the minister to start again in that round, I want to apologize to Professor Khalid. We had a technical difficulty in connecting Professor Schildmacher and actually lost him in somewhere out in space for this communication. So that means later on we will go directly to you, Professor, when the time comes. But now let's make it a little bit more personal from your own life and invite the Icelandic Minister of Climate to lead in this part as well. Please.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you all for your really inspiring talks. It's a great pleasure to be able to hear your words. In 2 minutes, I think I'm going to sort of think about something that shaped me as a child. And that has to do with a big environmental challenge here in Iceland. It is so that we have lost about 95% of our original birch woodland forest cover. And about 100 years ago or more than that, there were efforts by the government and by farmers and landowners to try to restore these degraded lands. Obviously, that was to save livelihoods and to build up a better ground for grazing animals, etc., etc. But later on, as we moved more into the prosperity of the 20th century, actually this notion of the degraded land in Iceland became sort of, the morale became that we had to pay the debt of our ancestors. And that shaped me as a child. So I was sort of moved by doing so, paying the debt of my ancestors in planting trees and regaining vegetation. And I think that whether it's, I'm not saying that we have to make the morale or the ethics that we are paying some debt. I'm just making an example of how a notion like that can actually drive people. So whatever the ethical background is, I think this is a vital component that we have something like that. So when we are fighting for environmental issues, we need to connect it with something that comes from our heart. And I think that's really essential to be able to get some success in what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I now invite the Cardinal to share with us his example.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think two basic points. Recognizing that ethics, as presented by all the speakers, derive from our understanding about human life, ourselves, and our relationship with God and with others. We like to then have ethics become the way we protect values that we cherish and values that make our life successful and promote our well-being. In that regard, my office and my work here in the Vatican is to just promote such well-being of people, and therefore wish to refer to several, we don't have the time to talk about several, but a few examples. For example, protecting our environment, our ecological responsibility derives essentially from the fact that we need to understand ourselves as part of the ecological system. Therefore, one of the concrete things that we're doing is promoting education in ecological citizenship, helping people to recognize that they are part of the ecological system. So ecological citizenship is one of the projects that we're promoting in universities, in schools, in parishes, in churches, and all. The second thing that we're promoting in these times of COVID, relating COVID, the pandemic, to everything that we're also promoting, for example, the need to develop equal access to whatever solutions humanity and our sciences may come up with. For example, the vaccines, which are being developed now, to ensure that in the distribution and access to vaccines, there will be no inequality, there will be no discrimination and all. There is a campaign that we have mounted and started to ensure that in the discovery of solutions to this pandemic, there will be equality, nobody will be left out. And as Ban Ki-moon said again in the context of the SDGs, that human dignity will be developed and pursued, leaving nobody behind. So these are some of the things we engage with now.